Why did you never fit in? The answer may be marked in your hands. It was an ordinary Sunday afternoon. While most people were enjoying the joyful activity of the neighborhood fair, he, a young man in his early 20s, felt the opposite. The more people around, the more alone he felt. The voices mixed into a muffled echo. The smell of the tents made him sick, and the smiles on the others' faces seemed as distant as a memory that cannot be touched. That day he couldn't explain it, but something inside him screamed, "You don't belong in this noise." Years later, looking at his hands one of those silent nights, he noticed something he had never paid attention to, a curious formation between the lines, a perfectly designed M, and near the base of the thumb a small arc that resembled a crescent moon. This sparked a search. One question haunted him for weeks. Can marks on our hands say something about our soul? The answer? Yes. At least for those who already feel like they don't belong here. This fact is for you who grew up wondering why it always seemed too much. Too sensitive, too introspective, too deep. And yet, I felt a constant emptiness trying to fit into what the world considered normal. The truth is that there is a subtle but recurring pattern in thousands of people around the world. They all share similar stories of social withdrawal, feelings of displacement, and a deep search for meaning. And it is no coincidence that many of these people have in common the presence of physical signs that escape common scientific explanation. Among them, the letter M and the crescent moon symbol on the palms of their hands. These marks have been known for centuries in esoteric traditions, ancient religions, and studies of spiritual symbolism. In some Middle Eastern cultures, for example, it was believed that these marks were signatures of destiny, engraved even before birth. Some mystical schools associate the M with mediumistic gifts and the ability to see beyond appearances. The crescent moon, in turn, is a symbol of spiritual cycles, heightened intuition and connection with the invisible. This is not cheap superstition. There are foundations in transpersonal psychology that suggest that certain physical characteristics may reflect archetypal personality patterns, and more than that, life mission. But the most impactful thing is not what is in your hands, it's what's vibrating inside you. Be part of our spiritual family. Subscribe to the channel today and comment "I believe" below as a symbol that you accept your role in this great transition. Let your energy be counted among the chosen. The time is now. Have you ever noticed that noisy environments drain your energy? That even among friends you often feel like you're just paying attention? That certain conversations cause you an inexplicable restlessness, as if something in you asked for silence. These are not mere social nuisances. These are internal alarms, an alert that your soul operates on a different frequency. Modern studies on energetic empathy estimate that around 15% of the population has a high vibrational sensitivity, people who capture emotions and energies around them as if they were their own. The detail is that, among the most intense reports of these individuals, a disproportionate number also carry these marks on their hands. Coincidence, or evidence that we have actually been marked? Most of these people, when they were young, were labeled as antisocial, difficult, detached. But in reality, they were just trying to protect themselves from a world that was subtly attacking them. Sensitivity, seen as weakness, was the shield that the invisible gave them. And here is the central point of this message. You were not rejected. You were protected. That friendship that ended without explanation, that door that never opened, that constant feeling of being out of place, none of that was a mistake. It was protection disguised as frustration, separation with purpose. In the next few minutes, you will understand why this detachment has always been part of your calling. You will discover what it means to carry a spiritual mark and why the chosen ones are often hidden before being revealed. But before continuing, pay attention to this. If something inside you is pulsing when you hear these words, don't ignore it. When the spirit recognizes a truth, it vibrates. This is how the soul responds to what it already knew, even before the mind understood. If you have identified yourself so far, type 333 in the comments. This number represents the alignment between body, mind, and spirit. It is also a symbolic act, a way of declaring to the universe, I recognize who I am. This journey is just beginning. What seemed like just another ordinary day could, in fact, be the beginning of your awakening. See you in the next part. Prepare to discover why your soul was marked and what it means for the fate that awaits you. Your journey is just beginning. It's time to regain your strength and build a new path. Subscribe to the channel and be part of this community that is awakening to the truth. Divine choice and spiritual destiny. You were separated by God because you were born with a mission that the world would not understand. Imagine living your entire life feeling like something about you has always been different, not strange, just out of place. As if your soul had come with a compass pointing to a north that almost no one else perceives. This feeling, which you have tried to hide or explain so many times, is not a mistake. It is a constant reminder that there is something greater operating behind the scenes of your existence. A plan that was drawn up even before he was born. And no, that's not a figure of speech. Various spiritual traditions, from ancient Jewish scriptures to the Vedic texts of India, hold that certain souls are born with specific purposes. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, for example, there are records dating back to the 6th century BC during the Babylonian exile, where prophets such as Jeremiah stated, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you came out of the womb, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations." Jeremiah 1:5. This idea is not restricted to religion, but crosses cultures and eras. In a similar way, Hindus have been talking for more than 3,000 years about the Dharma, a principle that represents the unique and sacred path that each soul must follow. According to the Vedas, destiny is not a chance. It is a path traced with intention. But what does this have to do with you? All. Because if you feel like you've been separated from others, that your walk seems lonelier, more sensitive, deeper, this could be a clear sign that you carry a kind of invisible choice. A spiritual choice. People with the seal of the letter M or the crescent moon on their hands do not appear by chance in spiritual reports. They often appear as those that, even in silence, change everything around them. Those that don't need a stage to make an impact. They are the bearers of a mission that begins in the soul and echoes in everything they touch. But here's a truth that few have the courage to say. Being chosen is not comfortable. In fact, it's lonely. Because before you are used, you will be shaped. And the process of preparing someone with a spiritual destiny involves stages of breaking, silence, and separation. This explains why so many phases of your life have felt wrong, confusing, or disconnected. Those friendships that disappeared for no reason, that cycle that ended without explanation, the constant feeling that something was about to change, even when everything seemed fine. These are spiritual signs that your journey does not follow common rules. You have been adjusted to something higher. And how does God shape a chosen one? It separates. He silences. He withdraws. Not as punishment, but as protection. It is in the desert that the spirit grows stronger. Moses spent 40 years away before leading his people. Jesus, before beginning his ministry, spent 40 days in isolation in the desert. It's no coincidence. It's preparation. You may not have gone through literal deserts, but you have certainly gone through emotional deserts, phases of silence, loss, doubt, deep tiredness, as if you were being emptied from the inside. This is the invisible mold of the sky. And the most curious thing is that, even during these phases, there was a flame inside you that never went out. A certainty that, no matter how much the world said you weren't enough, something in you insisted, it's not over yet. This inner voice is your direct connection to the divine, and no matter how much you tried to adapt to the world, your soul always knew that it didn't come to repeat patterns. You came to break them. Chosen ones do not walk in crowds. They guide, they challenge, they heal. And for this very reason, you were preserved from environments that could destroy your spiritual sensitivity. He was removed from people who would not understand the purity of his vibration, because not everyone can follow you. Not all energy deserves to touch you. It is important to understand, it's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being true to what you carry. You were spiritually designed to access directions that others do not yet see. And for that, God needed to cleanse you of distractions, noise, baggage that wasn't yours. Separation was protection. Silence was instruction. And isolation was a revelation. Most people fear being alone. But the chosen one learns, over time, that solitude may be the only place where God's voice echoes without interference. The mission you carry requires clarity, and it cannot be found in the crowd. In the eyes of others, you may appear strange, reserved, or even indifferent. But inside you know, your soul is connected to something bigger, something that pulses, that guides, that protects. And now, you begin to understand, the pain was not by chance. Silence was not absence. The distance was not contempt. Everything was flat. Everything was direction. So if this makes sense to you, if every word seems stitched together with something that was already in your heart, comment 777 below. This number represents spiritual completion, a cycle of preparation that closes for a new stage to begin, because now you are no longer the same. You are aware, and a conscious chosen one changes everything around them. It's time to regain your strength and build a new path. If this video is making sense to you, don't stop here. Click sign up now and discover the next step towards your transformation. Energy sensitivity as a gift. Do you feel what no one sees? This is not weakness. It is a divine gift. Have you ever walked into a place and before you even spoke to anyone, felt like something was off? Have you ever been in front of someone smiling and yet felt a sadness hidden behind that face? If so, this is not impression, it's perception. There is a group of people in the world who have an unusual sensitivity. We are not talking about raw emotion, but about a real ability to capture invisible frequencies, to perceive internal states that have not been verbalized, and even to absorb other people's feelings as if they were one's own. We call this energy sensitivity. This is not a vague concept. Modern psychology, through studies on heightened empathy and emotional synesthesia, already recognizes that approximately 15% to 20% of the population has a nervous system that is more responsive to internal and external stimuli. These individuals, called highly sensitive people, HSPs, are not fragile. They are in tune. But while science analyzes this from a neurological perspective, the spiritual plane sees deeper. This sensitivity is a gift. And like every gift, it comes with responsibilities and challenges. People with this type of perception live a reality parallel to most. While some feel comfortable in crowds, these souls need to withdraw. Where many ignore looks and silences, these people pick up on invisible layers of tension, falsehood, or pain. And that's tiring. It runs out. Sometimes he even gets sick. And that's where the confusion lies. Many think they are weak, unstable, emotionally broken. But the truth is different. Your spirit is more exposed to the surrounding frequencies. Your energy field is like an antenna. It receives everything, including what has not been said. This spiritual openness, however, is not a mistake. It is a divine choice. A protection and alert mechanism that allows you to navigate paths that others cannot see. While most people live automatically, you feel the invisible. And feeling, nowadays, is revolutionary. In an increasingly superficial world, your ability to feel deeply is like a bridge between the visible and the hidden. That's why, even without understanding it, you always sensed when an environment wasn't for you. When a person hid something behind their words, or when the silence of a place was, in fact, a suffocated scream. Your sensitivity is not a defect. It is the way the divine speaks to you, through your body, your heart, your energy. But it is important to understand, what is a gift also needs care. Highly perceptive people need to protect themselves, not physically, but energetically. And that means, choose carefully where to place your presence. Limit interactions with people who drain your vibration. Create spiritual and emotional cleansing routines such as meditation, prayer, herbal baths, or digital fasting. These practices are not spiritual luxury. They are a vital necessity for those who feel beyond the surface. Also, you should know, the closer you get to your mission, the more sensitive you become. This does not mean you are more vulnerable, but rather more alert. Because now, your soul understands that not every place can receive your light, and not every conversation deserves your energy. It is common for people like you to experience intense physical symptoms without apparent causes. Sudden tiredness, headaches in certain environments, feelings of suffocation in meetings, nausea after certain encounters. Traditional science does not always offer answers, but the spiritual world offers understanding. Your spiritual body is trying to protect you. When he feels that an environment is at odds with his essence, he reacts. And these reactions should not be ignored. These are guidelines from above, and here's the key. You need to stop apologizing for feeling too much. What the world calls exaggeration, heaven calls wisdom. If you need to leave a place for no logical reason, go. If a friendship seems light to others but heavy to you, walk away. If your heart quickens at a seemingly neutral situation, listen. This is your spiritual system in action. You were designed to be sensitive because your mission requires perception. You are the one who picks up the signals before anyone else. It is you who senses the danger before it becomes visible. It is you who recognizes the truth even in the midst of chaos. But remember, sensitivity without management becomes overload. Therefore, honor your gift with discipline. Avoid continuous exposure to what drains. Protect your mind, your space, your peace. Take breaks. Pray more. Connect with what recharges you, not what drains you. And above all, don't ignore what you feel anymore. You are rare. You are in tune. And no matter how much the world tries to push you into generic patterns, your soul was programmed for something much more subtle, profound, and transformative. Now that you understand what you carry, comment below 444, a number that represents spiritual stability and angelic protection. In doing so, you recognize that your gift is not a burden, but a beacon, and that from today onwards you will take care of this light with the attention it deserves. Share this knowledge with the world. Together we can spread this message and help more people become free. Subscribe to the channel and send this video to anyone who needs to hear this truth. Body marks as spiritual seals. The letter M and the moon in your hands are no coincidence. They are the signature of Alto. Have you ever stopped to look at the lines on the palms of your hands? Those traits that many think say nothing, but that since ancient times have been studied by different civilizations as indicators of paths and purposes. What if I told you that some of these signs are not there by chance, and that they can carry deep spiritual messages about who you are and what you came here to do? Among the symbols most mentioned by spiritualists, mystics, and students of handlines, two stand out with disturbing frequency: the formation of an M and the design similar to a crescent moon. To those who carry them, these marks are more than curious details. They are ancient codes, silent signs of a sacred journey. Since the times of ancient Egypt, hands have been seen as maps of destiny. It was believed that the gods sealed their blessings and choices in the bodies of those who would carry out unique missions on earth. Egyptian priests, especially those initiated in the temples of Isis and Thoth, were trained to identify signs such as crosses, letters, and lunar curves in the hands of the chosen ones. The symbol of the letter M, often formed by the union of the lines of heart, mind, and life, represents in several traditions a connection between three planes: emotional, rational, and spiritual. It's as if these people carry a living bridge between invisible worlds. The arc, similar to a crescent moon, usually located at the base of the thumb or between the palm mounds, is associated with intuitive gifts, nighttime revelations, and sensitivity to the invisible. These formations, although subtle, appear recurrently in people who report early spiritual experiences, premonitory dreams, a feeling of not belonging, and, mainly, involuntary isolation since childhood. And that's not imagination. Data collected by research groups in spiritual symbolism, such as studies conducted by authors linked to esoteric chirology in the 1980s, show that individuals with these marks tend to seek deep purposes and are more inclined to serve in the roles of guide, healer, or spiritual advisor. The most interesting? Most of these people do not immediately recognize the value of what they carry. They spend years trying to fit into the common pattern, stifling their gifts, ignoring signs, and often experiencing an internal struggle between what they feel and what the world expects of them. And here comes a crucial point. These marks are not ornaments, they are celestial authentications. Just as important documents receive seals to guarantee their originality, these formations on the body spiritualize a truth. You were designed with intention. His birth was not random. Its structure is not common, and its lines are the physical reminder of a commitment made between your soul and source, long before you took a breath on this plane. Not surprisingly, many spiritual leaders of the past also had signs like this. Ancient reports about Francis of Assisi, for example, mention that he had unusual marks on his hands, not only stigmata, but also patterns that were only noticed by those who observed him closely. In Sufi traditions, masters who carried lunar symbols in their hands were recognized as travelers between the veils, capable of understanding the hidden mysteries of creation. But be careful, just having the signal is not enough. Many have marks, but few awaken. It is the internal recognition that activates the journey. Brands are invitations, not guarantees. The letter M may be engraved on the hand, but it must also be lit in the spirit. The moon can rest on the skin, but it needs to shine in consciousness. This is why so many people with these traits go through cycles of suffering, confusion, and feeling out of place. Because until the call is accepted, the soul becomes restless. It's like a compass that spins around and around until it's pointed at the correct destination. And how to activate this seal? The first step is to recognize that it exists. The second is to respect it. And the third, perhaps the most challenging, is to live according to the truth he represents. This takes courage. You will have to say no to environments that don't respect your vibration. You will need to stay away from people who do not understand your nature. And above all, you will have to stop trying to explain yourself to those who do not have the ability to see the invisible. The seal is not a title, it's a mission. And whoever accepts this call begins to notice something extraordinary. The right doors open, the answers appear, and the connections begin to make sense. Everything that previously seemed chaos aligns, because when you accept what you are, the universe rearranges the path. So, if when you look at your hand now you identify the M or the curve of the moon, don't ignore it. Don't underestimate. You carry something that was not given to everyone. And that's an honor, but it's also a commitment. To seal this understanding, comment below 999, a number that symbolizes the closing of cycles and the beginning of a mature mission. Whoever recognizes your brand takes the first step towards complete awakening. To not miss any message from God, click the subscribe button. Write "I'm ready" in the comments and start aligning your energy with the transformation that is coming. Isolation as a sacred sign. You were set apart to be refined, not forgotten. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try to fit in, you always end up falling back into silence? Why do friendships grow distant over time? Why do certain connections just disappear without explanation? And why, even when you're surrounded by people, do you feel like you're in an invisible bubble? This feeling of being apart, of walking alone even among crowds, is no coincidence. It is a spiritual sign. An indication that your journey requires periods of absence not as punishment, but as stoning. Since ancient times, spiritual masters have gone through long periods of solitude before fulfilling their purposes. Moses spent 4 decades in the desert. Elijah isolated himself in a cave for years. Buddha sought silence under a tree. Jesus withdrew for 40 days before beginning his mission. The pattern repeats itself not as a legend, but as a universal code. Whoever carries a mission first needs to be prepared away from the noise. Spiritual isolation, although it may seem painful, is actually a divine incubator. It is in this space of silence that the spirit hears more clearly. It is in the absence of noise that the soul grows stronger, and it is outside the spotlight that the character of the chosen one is forged. Many people confuse separation with abandonment, but they are very different things. Abandonment is an imposed absence. Spiritual isolation is a strategic retreat. It's heaven taking you out of the zone of distraction, so that you don't contaminate yourself with patterns that don't belong to your essence. And why is this necessary? Because the mission you carry requires a clear vision, a light heart, and an aligned spirit. And none of this can be cultivated in the midst of confusion. It's like trying to hear a whisper during a fireworks show. You will only hear what the divine has to say to you when the world is silenced around you. And here's the most precious detail. Isolation is not just about separation. It's about construction. While you feel like you are standing still, something is being developed within you. Your convictions are being strengthened. Your perceptions are being adjusted. Your gifts are being silently activated. This selective removal is one of the biggest indicators that preparation has begun. And those who recognize this time as a sacred period do not try to escape it. They learn to extract everything they need from it. But it's difficult, I know, because we live in a society that values exposure, belonging, and constant presence. Current culture teaches that being alone is a sign of failure, of weakness, when, in fact, for those who have a calling, being alone can be the beginning of something extraordinary. Spiritually awakened people often report this feeling of disconnection from the world. They cannot stand noisy places, avoid empty conversations, and get tired quickly in superficial environments. And this is not a defect. It is a symptom of alignment. The spirit begins to reject what is not in harmony with its vibration. Recent studies in behavioral neuroscience indicate that people with high spiritual sensitivity activate areas of the brain related to risk perception, intuition, and empathy more intensely than average. The result? They capture not only emotions, but also environments, and therefore they become easily overwhelmed. The body asks for distance, the soul begs for silence, and the spirit, silently, invites seclusion. It is at this stage that many doors close. People disappear. The movement slows down, and it all seems like a loss. But really, it's alignment. What no longer vibrates at its frequency is removed so that the new one can arrive. Solitude then turns into a sacred workshop. This is where you learn to trust your own intuition. It is in this void that the divine presence becomes more real. It is on this dry ground that the seed of clarity germinates. It's exactly there, where no one is looking, that you begin to become who you really are. And when that time ends, you are no longer the same. You come back more sensitive, stronger, more aware. You no longer need external approval, because validation has already come from above. You went through the process, and you are ready to live with purpose. But before that, you need to accept isolation as a blessing. Stop resisting. Stop interpreting seclusion as failure. Understand that time alone is not punishment. It is preparation for something that requires more of you. So if you are in a phase where everything seems at a standstill, where connections seem scarce and the world around you doesn't understand you, celebrate. This is the exact moment where transformation happens. Comment below 555 if you recognize that this separation is actually a divine call to something greater. This number represents spiritual transition, movement between phases, and the beginning of a new direction. If you feel this calling within you, subscribe to the channel and write "I am chosen" in the comments. Declare that you are ready to receive what is already in store for you. Do you understand why? Great. You are marked with purpose. And now, you know what to do. We have reached the point where there are no more doubts. What you have always felt now has a name, explanation, and direction. All your life, you've tried to understand why nothing seemed normal, why certain places were uncomfortable, why friendships evaporated, why loneliness seemed constant, and most importantly, why you felt so much even when there was no visible reason. The answer has always been in you. You just didn't have the right words to translate it until now. You carry signs that many ignore. But in the spiritual world, they are seen as mission markers. This is not blind destiny, nor cheap superstition. It's about functionality. If you see what others don't see, feel what no one notices, and move away from what seems normal, it's because it was designed to operate at another level. Throughout this itinerary, we saw that the letter M and the symbol of crescent moon, they are not mere bodily traits but representations of spiritual callings. Yours energy sensitivity, it is not weakness, but rather a finely tuned spiritual antenna. The insulation. What you feared so much was the silent preparation so you could see clearly, and a separation from everything that destabilizes you. It was the greatest care that heaven could offer. And now that you understand all of this, comes the most important part. What to do with this awareness. 1. Don't force more connections that drain you. If something constantly drains you of energy, respect your intuition. People, places, ideas. Everything needs to be in tune with who you are today. You can no longer walk alongside someone who pulls you back, not for pride, but for spiritual survival. 2. Use your sensitivity as a guide, not a weight. Now that you know you feel more than average, learn to use this as a radar. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Your intuition doesn't lie. Your perception was tuned precisely to avoid wrong paths. 3. Keep away from noise. Every time you get too involved in confusion, your mind becomes clouded. Your spirit loses strength. Noise disorganizes you. Silence is not a luxury, it is a tool. You need it to stay on the right route. 4. Be selective with what you consume. This applies to everything: conversations, social networks, content, relationships. You absorb more than you realize, so choose carefully. Feed on sources that elevate you, not contaminate you. 5. Respect your mission, even if no one understands. Not everyone was called to the same path, and that's okay. What matters is that you now have clarity. Your journey requires courage, but above all, fidelity to what your spirit recognizes as truth. And here's something straightforward. You no longer have time to pretend to be someone you're not. If you've come this far, it's because something inside you has already awakened, and whoever wakes up never goes back to sleep. From now on, your vision is clear, your perception is sharper, and your soul is ready. The mission you carry does not depend on the acceptance of others. It depends on your delivery, from your positioning, from your discernment. You don't need validation, it needs action. And even if the world says that you have changed, that you are more reserved, more selective, more focused, the truth is that you're just finally being you. Starting today, you no longer beg for belonging. You build your own route. Hang out with someone who respects your energy. Choose your environments wisely. Speak only when necessary. And hear what no one else can hear, the voice of God within you. You are different. And that's exactly what makes it necessary. You are not here by mistake. Loneliness made you stronger. The losses stoned you. Sensitivity protected you. And now, with all of this put together, you are prepared, not to please, but to comply. If everything that has been said here has touched you, then it is already clear. The time for confusion is over. Now is the positioning time. Comment 000 below if you feel like this spiritual journey has been activated for good. This number represents an absolute new beginning, a divine reset, a life guided by conscience and direction. Your brand sets you apart, your sensitivity guides you, your silence makes you stronger, and your calling from now on will be your priority. The awakening continues. If this video opened your eyes to truths you had never seen before, imagine what else you can discover. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content that will transform your life.